Welcome to you all to twitch.tv/Wensleydale Cheddar. This is Stammer stream, manga podcast, and speech therapy combined. I'm your stammering host, Wensleydale Cheddar, here alongside your non-stammering host, Dr. Nova. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing very decently, actually. I had an interesting conversation yesterday, actually, in regards to the podcast. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah. So I was on a date, and it came up at one point.
Oh, cool.
I had a very interesting time of attempting to explain what this was without it sounding like the nerdiest thing in the world.
Oh.
And I don't think I succeeded necessarily, but also I didn't tell them how to find it. So hopefully
Well,
that's my saving grace.
it's if they like you for who they are, then I suppose it's cool.
Oh no, it's definitely something I'm gonna tell down the line, maybe just when I'm more established.
Okay then. So what did you reveal so far?
What the idea was essentially that it was a manga podcast.
Okay.
They can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the scale of 1 to 10, how was the reaction?
Yeah, very good actually. It was fair, like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Okay then.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, I for one am doing fan bloody tastic. I'm relieved that YouTube is doing something to address the Logan Paul controversy, namely raise the requirements for monetization just a month or so after we hit 10,000 views, which was the requirement for it previously. So good times. But we are trying to do something different for this week for podcasts, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Help differentiate our podcast structure. We're essentially going to start the discussions with how we felt about the chapters. A little bit more of a place to go after that. Now this won't be like specifically like, oh, I give this like this certain marks out of 10, because as other members of the podcast have brought up in a chapter that of a series that we're not as big on, a 10 in against something like One Piece or My Hero Academia that we're usually pretty high on. So essentially it'll be pretty simple, just like, yeah, I like this, or like, meh, it was okay, just stuff like that, nothing overly complicated.
Yeah, so to begin with One Piece, what did you think about chapter 891?
Decently, I think there's an issue of, I think some of the arc's more annoying tendencies are in this chapter. I think it's fine.
Okay, I actually liked it. Though to be fair, there was one thing in the chapter that kind of, well, since a few weeks ago, it's kind of hilarious to me, since boy, little sisters sure are great, aren't they? Yep, Oda. Yep, Yuzu and Ichigo agree. So yeah, a new character is introduced this chapter, and I mean, Flambe is an entertaining character with a cool design and powers, but yeah, ever since he wrote that comment on the Shonen Jump mangaka page, I guess, he tends to introduce those the theme of little sister characters and so on and so forth. It does seem to sneak in into the plot, doesn't it?
Yeah, we haven't really gotten one like this before, and I'm the character. I think it's kind of a fun idea. Like I assume she might have like because in a way, I was going to guess that she has bubblegum powers, but that's kind of what Luffy has, and it's kind of bubblegum and like Mochi have like a similar proxy. But I don't know. I think this is like I like the character. Just I feel like this arc has been a lot of, and now here's this wacky member of the Big Mom Pirates, and they just kind of show up for a chapter, maybe more than that, and they're fine. It's just with the arc as it is, it feels a little bit like, do we really need this extra padding right now?
Yeah, to be fair, I understand that. Yeah, you want to show that this crew is huge, but introducing this character so late into the arc, well, I guess it's a nice way to spice things up as we're going weekly. But I don't know. Well, in any case, moving on to other things, I like that Katakuri's personality is becoming kind of more and more intriguing the more we dive into this fight, because he's becoming more and more angry, and yet we see more and more of his pride in his calm facade. I like how he shames Luffy for falling down on the floor, and with that act, doesn't he kind of start to see Luffy as an equal opponent?
Hmm. Yeah, there's some really good stuff in there. Like the fight between Luffy and Katakuri is still great. That is something that has not changed at all and is just able to read the entire time. I the panel where they're both kind of using the giant elephant pistols is awesome.
Mm.
But after that, it just cuts around to all these different locations, which is fine given One Piece's sort of like bi-weekly schedule. Just cut in with everyone. I think the 5th time we've ended a chapter with, oh whoa, Chopper and Fred sure are fucked, aren't they?
Though to be
It's
fair,
like big...
this is the chapter that in which everything from the 3 subplots going on, everything is coming together at last. So I think we're nearing the end of the chase. Also, I like to think that just because the Sanji, Pudding and Chiffon were decorating the cake on Beige's ship, he just insisted that it should look like a fortress.
I mean, you gotta cook based on where you are, man. You can't just...
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gotta work.
Wherever inspiration strikes you.
If you did it on, Water 7, it would be a giant fountain. If they did it on Zao, I'm sure it would be covered in like really sexually drawn animal people. If it was, in
Totsuki, it would be a giant school, I suppose. Or
exactly,
it
would be
a fortress
giant
too.
castle.
Yeah.
It would be a giant castle invaded by a ghost army, clearly.
But before we move on to Food Wars, I just wanted to just coming back to the Katakuri fight. When Katakuri taunts Luffy that he's being read like a book, and in fact we see that Katakuri is the one who is starting to be read, as Luffy predicts his attacks. So he's kind of in denial of it, and this aspect of his personality is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell this is somebody who's used to being the strongest.
Yeah.
In any of the cases, who's used to being that somebody is sort of rising this quickly against him. Really intriguing fight, but also it's just a really interesting Curry's character, because sometimes One Piece gets a little bit of flack for the fact that it doesn't always, like, it introduces these really wacky, big personality characters, but sometimes the fights don't have enough character in them.
Yeah.
Which I don't always always agree with, but I think a lot of that came from the Doflamingo arc,
Yeah,
where not a lot of the
that's fair.
fights had a huge amount of character. This is great. We're not only seeing more of Katakuri's character throughout the fight than we saw before, but we're actually seeing it change somewhat
Mm-hmm.
as he's put in different situations. So I think this is excellent.
Yeah, not only is he now viewing Luffy as an equal, but because otherwise, why would he shame him for falling down? Also, we see his arrogance break bit by bit. Yeah, this is and all the while he's just stating the opposite. So this is fantastic show don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the chapter, Big Mom can smell the wedding cake. So it seems that the two subplots are going to collide together. I can only guess. I can only guess how Luffy and Katakuri will and the subplots tying into Big Mom and the cake. But I have one prediction. It's that before Big Mom can even get to the cake, hungry Nami just eats it all. She's just like, om nom 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 nom. And everyone else is like, hungry Nami? Big Mom was supposed to eat this cake. And she's like, I know, guys, but I was like really, really hungry. I can't help it. Oh, hungry Nami?
Now we're gonna die.
Ain't I a stinker?
Also deceased. Bleh. That's better than my prediction, where she's just gonna look over and it's just Germa66 having like a "hooray we're not dead" barbecue.
Oh right, I forgot. I forgot we kind of left the subplot alone, and yeah. Now they just massacred a quarter of Big Mom's forces, and they're just left alone on Whole Cake Island. So what's going on with them?
They're just being assholes somewhere.
You just reminded me. Speaking of abandoned subplots, we also touch upon what happened to Stussy and Morgan and the others, and we learn that in the future, the world may react to the event differently than what we know, because in Stussy and Morgan's eyes, it's basically like okay, so the Tomato Bako box was a gift from Luffy and Jinbei, and from the Fishman Island, and suddenly it exploded, and the wedding party was destroyed. So now it kind of seems like Luffy did it on purpose. That it was this whole giant conspiracy.
It kind of does. Oh dear.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to see how the world reacts to it. So speaking of cakes that look like fortresses, as we've said, shall we move on to Food Wars?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so it's Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma, chapter 246. So I found the chapter decent. How about you?
Kind of decent. I sort of can't help, and maybe this is almost the point, and it's why I've just always found her cooking so amusing, is I'm always so, like, pleasantly disappointed in everything Erina makes.
This is the first dish she makes in the manga.
No, it's not. She made eggs Benedict at some point, remember?
Oh, okay. So right. No, wait.
So far, it almost seems like her specialty is breakfast, because she just essentially made really fluffy pancakes.
Wait, wasn't it Soma who made eggs Benedict? In that
Omelet.
When he wanted her to taste his cooking.
He made like an egg tempura.
Oh, okay.
Bowl, something.
So
no, she made it. she made an eggs Benedict, and then her secret ingredient was like putting like fish seasoning on the bun or something, and everyone was like, "Holy shit!"
When was that actually? Because I don't think I've ever seen her cook. Was it on that
was in the
training she did with the winter camp or whatever?
camp. Yeah, it was in the very first training camp. It was the same arc that we got in Kumi, Alice, Kurokiba, people like that.
Okay.
And then she made eggs Benedict, and that's which I love a good eggs Benedict, but in this case, I mean, and look, I can vouch for these. These are annoying as hell to make. I've tried them, and I'm gonna keep trying them. When they're good, they are pretty good, but they're really, really annoying to make. Just sort of that moment where it's like, all right, I made pancakes. I put flowers on top.
Yep.
So clearly this beats a cake, right? Because there's leaves that you can't eat on top. And there are edible flowers, but I can see the stem.
Oh, right. Well, maybe the stem is made of something else. Maybe this is a surprise that she is waiting to reveal a few chapters later. Well, I know that I'm in the minority, but I don't like that we're breezing through these Shokugekis, especially since it's the first time it's the first time I see Erina cooking, because somehow I've missed the first time.
Yeah, it's a little odd. The twist of the twist of like the red bean paste in the center, it's like I mean I guess that's kind of decent, but and maybe it's just because I'm the constant case of watching Iron Chef and Top Chef, but for me it's just like it was brown sugar, right? So why is
and it's kind of
like a background?
And it kind of seems we've had the same thing a few times already. Wasn't something along those lines Megamise thing?
Somewhat. I think my larger issue is just that I feel like you have to highlight the secret ingredient anymore, and we're just like, fuck it, you use it. The best part of Takami's dish didn't even have the fucking beef on it. Who cares? It was really fucking good, man.
Yeah, a few things I like. I mean, seeing Erina in one of her more evil modes from the beginning of the manga is nice. I like how Momo is trying to be intimidating and cute at the same time, just cheering for Erina, while kind of showing that she's looking down on her. Yeah. But apart from that, it's pretty meh. Though, good lord, that fan service, right?
What the fuck even is this? It's like what was the notes? Like what was the storyboards that the writer suggested? Like, okay, listen. So Erina's a sexy teacher. Okay, that's pretty standard for Food Wars. And both the female characters are naked. Yeah, they're naked. They're also really, really tiny. Like what? Yeah, they're really tiny.
I guess that is a fetish.
It's just such a weird one. Like it's just one. It's certainly one of those cases where I feel like this arc, like okay, yeah, it's been a big tournament arc. I feel like a lot of the point of it though is just like fuck it, we'll just create like 50 new fetishes within this time and just see which one of them stick.
Yeah. At this point, even without the discussion on fan service, it's a bit of art fatigue, especially since there's very few chances that we can be surprised by Tsukuda's storytelling. So
I I was enjoying it when they were doing like the manga and anime references stuff. Like I still think the soba that leapt through time is still hilarious to me.
Yeah.
I just
I
oh
guess
well.
I guess it's erroneous, so we needed something special. Oh dear.
Not everything can be a stand battle.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right then. So, My Hero Academia.
ooh.
Okie dokie then. So it's chapter 166. And honestly, I thought this chapter was fantastic. How about you?
I thought it was pretty decent. I enjoyed there are certainly parts of it I really like. I think that the actual image slide, which I was waiting for this slide, and it finally the combination of the wind, the slide, the aurora created
By the illusion girl. By Kami. Yeah, Kami the Chav. Yeah.
Jamie's using powers. I think those are very good. I think the best moment of this chapter, though, is one that doesn't actually get a lot of focus, which isn't necessarily bad. So much going on, but it's maybe the second to last panel.
It's Pretty Boy Todoroki, right?
It's not. It's yeah. I really did love Pretty Boy Todoroki. I feel like this would just change into a shoujo manga now, where instead of fighting with explosions, they fight with feelings and passive
I love that
aggressive.
that Bakugo of all people couldn't help but laugh, even though he's such a grump the rest of the time.
Yeah. For me though, the best one is the second class panel where Shoto is creating fire from his hands so the kids can like warm their hands because it's gotten really cold.
Aww. Oh
It's
yes.
this small.
Yeah.
It's a small moment, but it's also just Todoroki's character and the relationship that he's had with his firepower. Just seeing this very pleasant, comforting way he's using it around these kids, it does show in a very short period of time. It's a really lovely moment.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at first, but even Endeavor's kind of looking with almost a smile on his face that his powers can actually be somehow used benignly, I suppose. That there is hope for him to become the next symbol of peace. But speaking of that, I actually loved a different part of this chapter. It's Bakugo. It's his performance in this chapter. I love the character development stemming from the fight with Deku. It was amazing. And we have a parallel that as Endeavor is trying to figure out what it means to be the next symbol of peace, Bakugo has actually picked up some clues on how to save these children's mentality from All Might and Deku. He says that if you lose to an opponent who's looking down on you, it just leaves you feeling shitty. Bakugo has learned how to actually empathize, and he seems to be analyzing his past behavior and acknowledging how wrong it was. This is a huge jump for him. This is amazing character growth.
It's good. It's good. Bakugo's character development has been very interesting in the sense that it was slow and so gradual that you can't really make the argument that like, no, Bakugo's still a complete shit, becoming a bit more of a noble dickhead over time. We also get the detail that apparently at UA's rival school they don't let the students date each other.
Oh yeah. No, not UA. Shiketsu, right?
That's what I said. UA's rival school.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Date each other, which interesting. I mean, if this is just a school thing, or this is just another thing where Japan's schools have like really odd, specific, arbitrary rules about things.
I love that Kami's reaction to proclaiming this is just salty off.
Oh.
Well, the way the young heroes approach this problem, wanting to inspire as well as remind the kids who the people of authority are here, was great. I love the cannon tongue kid. This is something to mention. This chapter also introduced an interesting idea that broadens the scope of the series. The fact that the next generations of heroes are going to grow more and more powerful. This also signifies how important the role of the symbol of peace is going to be, since without the right guidance, they might just turn into villains.
Essentially, yeah. It's in, like, for the most part, pretty heartwarming chapter. I think if this chapter, it might have been a little bit better, because as sort of sweet as this side arc has been, I feel like it overstayed its welcome just a tad. And I still don't get why, like, the meatball guy from Shiketsu is here. I still don't like that character. Really get why he's still here.
Really? Why don't you like him? I mean,
I just don't think there's a lot about his character that is particularly memorable. Like, I don't really like characters where their only, like, defining trait is they just yell at other people and they're like, "You suck!" Which is kind of what he's been so far. He's just kind of been this, like, stickler who yells at all the kids from UA all the time. Introduce more to his character.
Well, in this case, he does have kind of a point in his discussion in this discussion with President Mike, just referring to the fact that they actually don't want they do want to kind of pacify them, but not to the point that they don't like the heroes.
I just think it's an odd moment for him to have. I just think it's a case of, like, surely you could have given this to like, maybe it's just the fact that we have so many characters here. So, like, we have Endeavor here, we have All Might here, we have President Mike here, we have that, I forget his name, but, like, the sleepy guy who did a exam, we have him here, we have Gang Orca over there, and for some reason we're giving these moments to this guy.
Well, it might be just me, but I like the fact that we do have a world outside of UA, and I do like the insight into Shiketsu. So I do find this kind of arc kind of nice, and also an improvement over the last time we came here, I think.
Fair.
Did I want to say anything else? Oh, right. Isn't it weird that how President Mike in this arc is kind of silent and calm lately?
Yeah, it's another thing that's odd, is the sense that, and it's why, like, this other character's presence just seems a bit odd to me, in the sense of, like, it seems like he's almost, you know, like, not overstating anything. I guess just, like, saying a lot of things that you'd expect, like, the actual professional heroes to say. But instead it's this guy, and I find the quirk singularity doomsday theory, it's something that, you know, on the line, that's something that I think will be explored in a much more in-depth way.
Yeah, it's definitely setting up for the future if we get to that point that the next generation may become a force to be reckoned with. So, yeah, good stuff. Shall we move on to Black Clover?
Sure.
Okay, so it's chapter 140. And I must say that I like this chapter, actually. How about you?
I thought it was okay. I didn't have that with it. It's a chapter that it's fine. I wish it could have been stronger, built up to a little bit more than he was.
You mean Henry?
Fine chapter. Huh?
You mean Henry? Because
I did say Henry.
Oh, okay. You just cut out a little, so yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so yeah, I think Henry is a lot of fun, and I think he was actually built up before, because I heard Tabata did mention that that the vice captain of the group was going to be revealed, and having him established in the very first time we see the base is kind of clever. Because
Was he?
Because I think we did have the mention that this base is kind of haunted, and that's why it moves around so much. That they have seen this ghost. I do remember this. Unless I remember it wrong, but I think, yeah, I think we have heard about him.
I think there could have been a little bit more personally, because I'm with some of the other people in the sense that I kind of forgot that the fact that the moose in this base was even a thing, because it comes up so rarely, and whenever they're in the base, it's not really something that's occurring. It's kind of like, fuck it, Hogwarts did it. Our series is magical.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I also kind of barely remembered it. I do remember it, but yeah, another few months outside the base, and I would have forgotten it. But yeah, to be fair, it may be just that we don't pay attention to these things, kind of, since we don't since we don't like it as much as others, maybe. I would kind of put this as on put this kind of reveal on something along the lines of Garb being Luffy's grandpa. We certainly didn't have it built up. We just had the Garb introduced in a cover story, and then suddenly, a lot of chapters later, he's just introduced as Luffy's grandpa. So yeah, I would put it on kind of the same level of foreshadowing.
Yeah, I would say I wish there was a little more in this case, but I think overall the chapter's fine. I did get a tickle out of the moment where a member of the Midnight Sun goes to what I assume is Asta's room, Magic Stone, and he sees it just on the windowsill, and like, yeah, that makes sense. That I don't feel like Asta would hide this anywhere.
Wait, which panel is it in?
Page 150 and 151 of the Shonen Jump reader.
Okay, in the Shonen Jump reader. Yeah. This checks. Oh, okay. I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, Asta's like, no one will ever look on the windowsill. They'll never find it.
Oh God. Yeah. I hope us meeting Henry means that we can spend some more time exploring the base in the future, since since correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's tied to the base. So if we're gonna use this character, then we're probably gonna spend some more time in it.
And again, the ending where he essentially turns the entire base into a mech. I'm like, this will be interesting. It's not like it's not the coolest thing I've ever seen in the world, but like with all the steam rushing off and it going up Like, it looks cool,
Yeah.
cool in and of itself.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Henry is his design, honestly. I mean,
Hmm.
it's if standalone, it stands on its own pretty well, but just kind of the hippie look. But another fair-haired pretty boy is with shaggy hair is kind of pretty lame for such a wacky character, and even a World Trigger Eye can tell most of its casts of thousands apart. Here, not so much. I mean, for the longest time, I thought Finral and Luck were the same person, but and there are a lot. There are a lot of characters who look almost the same as Henry, to the point that I would think, oh, he kind of looks like one of the people attacking this base, the one with the stupid eye patch. So maybe they're brothers or something.
He does. It's sort of like, and I do wish for a bit of a better design for him. Like, I get the fact that he's meant to be inside all the time, so he's supposed to be very pale. But when I first saw him, I was just like, I didn't think Finral had been in the hospital that long. And I was like, no, this is a slightly different guy.
Yeah. Though, what do you think about the name Henry? Because when I first when I first saw it, it was like there are some who call me Tim.
It was certainly an anticlimax, and
I mean, if it
I
was
feel like
intentional,
this.
then it's hilarious.
If it was intentional, then that's pretty amusing. I wouldn't have mind because for the most part, like, Black Clover has had some, than like, at least less insane names for a manga series, but Henry really did just feel like Google search of Western sounding name. Like, he was the first one that came up.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. Although still a pretty good chapter, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see what happens next. Though, with how slowly he speaks, could you imagine what the chapter would look like if his name was Johann Gumbleputty, de von Ausfern Spleideschitte, Kraskremont, Frank Diggle, Dingle, Dangle, Dangle, Busstein von Akrasche, Abelbange, Horwitze, Kleinste, Grane, Notte, Speltinke, Granisch, Grümme, Meier, Speltove, als kürzlich Himmel, Eisenbahnwagen, guten Abend, Mitte, ein Nürnberger, Grabwürde, Gespitte mit zweimacher Lube, Hunsfurt, Guber aber schönen Danker, Kaufleisch, Mitrahon von Hauptkopf auf Ulm.
I assume he finishes the name, he looks down, and the three of them are already dead.
Do you want to talk about We Never Learn, or shall we leave it for next week?
Do it quickly, because
you'd have to tell me what happened because I couldn't read it again. The scans.
All right, let's do this. All right, I'll recap it. So this is going to be a fun little Stammer stream read along. So
Okay.
we get Mafuyu. Wait, no, not Mafuyu. That's Kurisu. Miharu. Okay, so we get to see more of Miharu, Kurisu Sensei's little sister. Uega study, but she's doing it from all the way over on the other side of the room because she's nervous around boys. Guess that's the gimmick of every single character except for Asumi. So Kurisu and Uega don't really understand what's going on, and find out that Miharu is very used to giving people these very insane training regiments, as we find out in a somewhat amusing flashback where we find out she had a dog, make him do tricks for food. So it's like, shake, then you can have food. Chase that bird, then you can get food. Beat me in Japanese chess, and then you can have food. And then the dog ran away. Training regiment worked because before running away, he wrote in the sand, "Don't come after me, period." Arf.
Oh god, I love that Arf is just what his name is.
Yeah. No, Arf isn't his name. His name is Pero.
Okay. Well, that's his slave name. His real name is Arf.
He's saying back to himself. I mean, it's funny. It's a little odd in the sense that you're like, oh, she was just straight up starving her dog until he did all these insane tricks. So it's kind of dark in that sense.
Yeah,
but it's amusing.
I kind of like this dark kind of humor.
Yeah, because that humor I actually like quite a bit. In this case, however, what it switches into is to like Mahiru attempting to do all these like sexy, seductive moves around Uega. Trying to this. But of course he's completely oblivious, which is weird because it seems like when he's around all the other girls, he just can't help but see stuff like this.
It varies actually. It's yes, sometimes, especially when he's around Takemoto, he doesn't seem to realize it. But when it's the girls being oblivious, it's and when they're acting kind of naturally around him, then it's his turn to become flustered.
Sure. So then we find out that like the sexual stuff, he's just noticing certain things, and then he's just like, you know what? I can't. Her shoulder's touching me, but maybe she's deliberately trying to break my concentration.
Oh, so he thinks this is a special part of the training regiment.
Then Kirisu's about to get up. Then but her legs have fallen asleep, which of course means that she has to fall into Uega boobs first.
What? How does this physically happen?
No. It seems a little bit impossible, but it happens.
Okay.
Then there's a weird, and then her sister's just like, my God, pretending to have your legs fall asleep. So astounding. I have to do something too. Fire, and falls on Uega. And then saying, I'm sorry, my legs fell asleep too. And Uega clearly is just like, okay, why did you yell fire?
What?
Of course her skirt rides up, because of course it does. We never learn character moment, which I really wish like wasn't always just confined to the end of the chapter, which is like now they're alone and they have a conversation about Kirisu, and then in and pats Uega on the head, and then Miharu is like, I can't do this, I've lost completely. But are they changing them? And then they realize that Kirisu, when she walked out to wash some dishes, accidentally grabbed a beer and drank the whole thing and got drunk from that because she thought it was a soft drink.
Oh, okay. So now everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Bottom line, keep away from alcohol.
Then it ends with trying to help Uega study, but harsh about it, and like apparently they study all night, which I feel really bad for Uega, because I really do feel like if this doesn't end with Uega like having a complete mental breakdown from all the stress he's under and all the girls being like, oh wow, we really forced him into all this shit. That would be a bit of an issue, because I feel like he's really burning the candles at both ends here.
And that's the chapter?
That's how it ends.
All right. Sounds decent and pretty funny at parts, I guess. So I'm looking forward to reading it. Just realized I changed the order a bit for some reason. So, shall we move on to the Promised Neverland?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's chapter 70, which I did like. How about you?
Yeah, I like this one. This was good. It also it's a good example of like for anybody who says online scans like the fan translations are better. I think this is a perfect example as to why. Because at one point, like after hearing like my prediction from last week, somebody sent me an image of a fan scan saying like, "No, they're really doing it." Even Lucas calls the guy that man, and I'm like, "Oh, god damn it!" But in here, it actually makes the fact that they don't call him by his name is worked very naturally into the conversation, and it isn't as blunt.
Okay, so
That man or that person.
that guy. I was actually, my reaction was actually, are you serious? Is this really happening? But yeah, if you're saying that it was actually written well, then fine. So
I thought the way it was I thought the way it was put into the conversation, and then just like what it was done with like, is that person still alive? You know, like the way that like nobody would actually say it.
yeah,
So I felt like for what they were given, I think the Viz team did a pretty decent job with this.
yeah, fair. So I think more points of view are working in the Promised Neverland's favor. This, especially as we cut back to Ray and Billy Bob. Building up that they're going to break into Goldie Pond soon. The chapter promises more exciting things to come, namely, we have a clear goal of the series now, kind of trying to clear Goldie Pond away from, well, for it to being a safe place perhaps for William Minerva to return to. And as well as adding another layer to William Minerva's legacy in the first place. So I really do like this. Although I wish this series could improve in terms of characterization at times, especially for the new characters, since, maybe it's just me, but Lucas is as bland as they come. Maybe apart from... Yeah?
See, I found very to like Lucas is that when he finds out that his friend is alive, his reaction is, "Oh my gosh." So I immediately assumed he's like a squeaky clean Boy Scout who never. Like I get it. I know it's Shonen Jump. I was expecting to say he's alive. Oh my fucking shitting god! Thank fucking god. He's like I just whenever I hear "oh my gosh," I just picture him as like, that's just. I was the only one who survived, even though back then. I just picture him as like this like happy innocent little soul.
Now I just imagine him as Butters. Oh gee, we're sure gonna fight against those demons, right? Lo, I've got some apples. Lo, you've got some too.
Oh, hamburgers.
Oh, son of a biscuit. I mean, yeah. I think this may be just our interpretation of him, since the translation has to take either one direction or another. But
it definitely is. But it's just made this character so much more enjoyable for me.
Okay, but yeah. Apart from maybe being the Emma to Billy Bob's Ray, or the Enjolras to Billy Bob's Marius, probably not the latter. But we have a nice parallel between the four of them. But apart from that, I thought Lucas was, though pretty bland, still sympathetic. Yeah.
Luvis has a monkey. which I've just noticed.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Cyclops monkey with like a little hat.
Wait, where?
Like go back to like the panel where like we see Luvis after like cutting off Lucas's arm.
Okay.
He's got a little monkey on his shoulder.
Uh-huh. Okay. I didn't notice that at first.
I love that there were demon monkeys.
Wasn't that okay, not Lucas, Lewis, right?
It's like Luvis or something like
Okay.
that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lewis,
he's
right.
he's got a monkey.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. This also makes the character kind of more, yeah, stand out. Right then. Anything else to mention, really?
Nothing immediately is coming to mind, but there is a good amount of intrigue in the fact that like Goldie Pond is actually underground.
Yeah, and that's somehow yeah, that we are waiting for William Minerva's arrival, and we do need to make sure that this place isn't accessed by demons any longer. So I do, once again, I do like that there is a clear goal at hand. And I'm also looking forward to seeing Billy Bob and Lucas reunite.
Very much so. I think that'll be a really big moment when it comes up.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, do you think one of them is going to die before that?
I'm assuming that at least one or more of them is going to die in this arc. But I'm not sure about before.
Yeah. Okay then. So, shall we move over to Dr. Stone?
Definitely.
Okay, so this is Dr. Stone, chapter 42, and surprisingly, not much meaning of life in this 42nd chapter of Dr. Stone. I thought it was great. What do you think?
After the week, easily.
No. I think I liked My Hero just a little bit more, but yeah, that's just a personal thing. But yeah, pulling off the astronaut exam showed how much Senku's dad loved him, since just the fact that he tried in making him succeed. So I love Byakuya's characterization. This is a great reintroduction to the character. And it seems that the villagers must be the descendants of the space expedition. So, oh god, can you imagine how much inbreeding must have happened in this village?
I mean, it was always kind of in the back of my mind with this village.
Yeah. So, what's your highlight? What's your highlights?
I think the art in this chapter is excellent. The way that we slowly see more and more of Senku's father as the time, like he's sort of drawn smaller and less less detail put into him at the start of the chapter, but slowly but surely as the chapter goes on, we get to see more of him. He starts to look bigger and cooler as he starts to move towards this moment where he's going to apply for the space expedition. And then by the time we actually finally see him in the space, it's really cool. Like, this is a case of, like, he actually does look a lot like Senku, to the point that, and this is a detail that I love, they both have the black tipped hair.
Yeah. This is an interesting. This is a great way to have them seem like father and son, and still have the designs look a lot different. So I really like that.
It's excellent there. There's one thing that has me like a little like which is in the sense that like you realize like, oh yeah, I guess Kohaku is technically like great, 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 like, niece.
Oh yes, so this is gonna make shipping a lot. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, unless it turned out there was like some other members on the space expedition, it feels like somehow there's no way that these two aren't related.
Yeah, and even so, even so with 3,000 or so years, it must have, yeah, they must have mixed pretty evenly at that point.
Yeah, and like Weekly Manga Recap has brought it up, but like just in terms of like back to the chat, what I really liked about this was it's actually really rare to see like a good father in Shonen Jump.
Mm, yeah,
They're either dead
to
or
be
they're
fair,
just off somewhere on a journey.
we do have a lot of good father figures in One Piece. We have a lot of dead fathers in Naruto and stuff. Well, to be fair, wouldn't you count Kurosaki Ishin as a good dad?
I would not count Kurosaki Ishin as a good dad.
No.
Not much. I don't know. There's certain parts about him, like first reaction to like first seeing him in his spirit, in his soul reaper form, to like kick him a bunch. Isn't every single morning his reaction to his son is like, "Oh, I'm gonna go beat the shit out of him on his way to high school."
Oh god.
And what I'm more talking about is main characters.
Yeah.
Who all the main characters? The closest that I would actually say to a good father until now was Soma's father, because we don't know where Deku's is necessarily. In Luffy's case, Dragon and Luffy, I'm not even sure have ever met properly.
I'm not sure Dragon or Luffy even want to, which is kind of hilarious.
Uega's father is dead. Black, he was raised in an orphanage.
Well, as Asta has hots for the sister that raised him.
Who, as we find out in the anime, was also a horrible parental figure.
Oh dear. What did she do?
So you know that gimmick of Asta running towards her and then she like blasts him down with her water magic?
Yeah.
So apparently that's been the case since the first moment he met her, when he was like 4.
Okay.
Where every time he ran toward her for a hug, and she blasted him down with the water magic.
Yeah, fair enough. So
It
what?
just seems like child abuse to me.
What other nice parental figures we see in Shonen Jump manga? Oh right, Isabella.
Exactly. Go into manga that aren't in the magazine right now. In World Trigger, Yuma's father is dead and Osamu's isn't around.
Yeah, and
Byakuya Ishigami is probably dead. You see any way he isn't. But it's just sort of interesting to see this much depth into a father and son relationship. Because that's usually one that's only explored in Shonen Jump way later down the line, because the fathers are either dead or, in Dragon's case, off on some like wacky journey.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting to see this explored to this degree.
Yeah, it's kind of still not as vital as I would say. Maybe somewhat as important as Deku's relationship with his mom. Yeah.
Yeah, Deku's relationship with his mom, I would say, I mean, that's probably the best parental relationship we have in Shonen Jump, because that's a genuine, part of the story that's always changing. This is clearly sort of backstory.
Mm-hmm.
what also has me excited is this doesn't seem to be the end of it. So I think we're going to get more of Byakuya Ishigami keeps going. And I guess I'm going to assume, and this seems to be where it's going, for the next chapter, I think what it's implying is that the world was turned into stone while Byakuya was in space.
Yes.
Imagine what kind of reaction that's going to be.
Yes. So basically, the expedition came down, and just the participants just lived on. So this is going to be interesting.
And more interesting for this is we still don't know what caused the world to turn to stone, and while we might not necessarily get that answer, we might get a view from space as to what it looked like.
Okay.
Which might give us some kind of hint as to what happened.
Yeah, intriguing. As we are about to, we should basically within the next few chapters get a new goal of what Senku's kingdom is gonna do now, apart from opposed Tsukasa's kingdom. So this is gonna be intriguing. Well,
Definitely.
by the way, speaking of Mrs. Midoriya, because we've discussed her. So you know how I had this spreadsheet of that all the fans of the weekly manga recap can put the weekly MVPs and chapters of the week in. So when I didn't do like a ceremony for this year, but when I counted up the votes for 2016, it turned out that Midoriya Inko was like the third most popular character of 2016.
Oh.
Yeah, among the
Cool.
readers. Yeah, so yeah. This was the year of Sanji. This was the year of Mrs. Midoriya. In any case,
Nice.
just to briefly touch up on Robots X Laserbeam. Did you read this chapter?
I've never read. I don't really read Robot X Laserbeam at all. No.
Yeah. So yeah, I liked it fine. I found it decent. I like that this chapter made Tomoya kind of important by highlighting his role as a caddy, even if just a little. I also like Dorian Green's goofy faces and the fact that the chapter builds him up as a very persistent player, kind of like Tanaka in Haikyuu. So yeah, it's fairly decent. Yeah, I think that we may be coming to a close with this last day of the tournament, since we've had 6 chapters of this particular match. So yeah. So if you haven't read it, then I guess this is gonna do it for this week of Stammer Stream, isn't it?
Yeah. So unless we want to mention Bozebeats, but I don't really have much to say about it.
Oh, okay. So we had a new jumpstart.
We did.
I didn't read it.
It's basically it's another one of those, and I'm sounding a little like meh on it. I think it's just because we've had quite a few of these recently, most of which are very popular, like badass modern exorcist manga, along the lines of like Blue Exorcist or Twin Star Exorcist, where we have these characters who are like in modern times, so they use modern equipment and all these different abilities, and it's not necessarily a bad. It's a pretty good chapter. It's a little overdrawn at points, if that makes any sense. in the sense that there are certain panels, one less image, because I feel like they were trying to pack a lot into this.
Okay, so basically too busy in terms of backgrounds.
Too busy, yeah. There are funny ideas to it, like the way the mentor exorcist character defeats the bad guy is he essentially breaks out a Gatling gun that fires prayer beads.
Well, that's intriguing.
Yeah. It says his gun is spiritual pressure powered, so I really hope this isn't like a secret like Bleach continuation.
Yeah.
Chapter, we have a main character who's going to try and become an exorcist now. We have Tor who's going to try and help them out. We have a 6-month time skip. It's a tad odd, and I'm saying it's a bad series at all. I really hope I'm not coming across that way. I'm just a little unenthused by it because right now we have 2 really popular series, Blue Exorcist and Twin Star Exorcist, that both have pretty much this exact same concept.
Well, also we have Yuna-san, don't we?
We do, although this one does differentiate itself by not being the most shameless thing I've ever read in my entire life.
Yeah.
So it's and also, while this series certainly does have some good art, if a little busy, and Twin Star Exorcist are manga that are renowned for their art. Like a lot of people really, really like the art in those series. Star Exorcist. So this series needs something to make it more unique. Good art isn't good enough. So it's because the other 2 series already have that. Still going to look forward to see where it goes, because again, it's hard to fully judge a series based on the first chapter, but the way Shonen Jump works a lot of the time is your first chapter really, really good if you want to stay in the magazine for a while, and I thought this was fine.
Yeah, I wasn't under the impression that exorcist manga is like a subgenre that comes up a lot, really, especially since the most I've seen successful is, well, perhaps Soul Eater, since it's kind of a similar premise, but not really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just specifically it's this specific kind of exorcist manga, which is like exorcist manga that takes place in modern times.
Mm-hmm.
The classical Japanese aesthetic tweaked to make it, a little bit more with the times and stuff like that. Even right down to the fact that all the main characters have short black hair.
Oh,
well.
So very similar character designs are never within a certain cast are never a way to draw me in. So
they're never, and they all have like the pointy, almost cat-like eyes to some degree. And with this character, it makes sense because he was raised by wolves, apparently.
Okay.
But it's one of those cases where I'm not saying it's bad, but this before.
All right then. So that is gonna do it for this week of Stammer Stream. Thank you for watching, either on my YouTube channel or live at twitch.tv/Wensleydale Cheddar. We usually try to record on Saturdays at 10 AM Eastern Standard Time, 3 PM GMT, and 4 PM GMT+1. Although every few weeks we may move to Monday to let Grail in on the action. And I think we might do so next week, since he and Castor mentioned that they wanted to talk. They really wanted to talk about Dr. Stone badly. So, I mean, if you're fine with it, Jonah.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
So you can follow me on Twitter at Cheddar for updates on the stream on Penganta, Well Triggered, Friendly Faces Everywhere, Inverted Fates, and many other projects. Follow Milo at HovinwithanH for anime waifus, Cabal hijinks, Cabalcast, which is definitely coming, guys, and Trial by Guilty Crown, a podcast he does with Castor. You can find it on YouTube in the description below, either that or in the annotations since I've learned how to do them. Follow Grail at Nuclear Android for gaming tweets and grumpy posts about his job. And don't follow Castor at KastorUK. Just don't follow him. It's just not something he does. I mean, come on, guys, stop following him. Just leave him alone. Alright, so check out the second episode of our playthrough of Pokemon Brick Bronze, or as I like to call it, #Race Pokemon Journey. Thanks to I Draw Shitty Art for helping with the editing, that bit. Forgot to mention it last time. A sincere thank you to our recent subs on YouTube. It's thanks to you that we may one day catch up to our eternal rivals, the Manga Mavericks. Do please check out their show. It's on YouTube, and it's actually in short, consumable chunks. So, yeah. You can tell them we said... Jonah, what should our message to the Manga Mavericks be?
Alright, Manga Mavericks.
Hey?
You've done well so far.
Okay.
Manga Mavericks.
You've done well so far.
Yeah.
That's it. Alrighty then. So, once again, cheers for watching, and we will see you next week. Take care!